Is the US government running out of cash? Hi, I'm Farhan Rizvi, and today we are going to discuss Janet Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury, who has written a letter to Nancy Pelosi, Speaker at the House of Representatives, detailing that maybe the US will need to raise its limit on funding by end of next month. In her letter yesterday, Janet Yellen clearly laid out her concerns. Primarily, the US would need to borrow much more money during the next couple of weeks to pay its usual bills. This has been highlighted to Nancy Pelosi and ultimately a request for the Congress to raise its limits. Secondly, there are a number of political maneuvering that need to be done to accomplish this. Many of the Republicans in the Congress have been very much eyeing the infrastructure bill and multiple spending bills that the Joe Biden administration is putting forth to move forwards on the post-pandemic recovery. And thirdly, Joe Biden's team has had a difficult political time considering the Delta variant and its impact on the economic recovery post the pandemic. And of course, the hastily pullout from Afghanistan that the administration is tackling with right now. What are the risks? Well, there's political risk and there's economic risk. As far as the political risk is concerned, the Republicans have been very, very clear that they are closely watching the ballooning deficit, which is $500 trillion or more, and are very concerned with the added spending that Joe Biden administration is putting forth to put together a $3.5 trillion Social Security plan. What are the economic risks? The perceived economic risks are that if the US Congress takes its time and last-minute haggling over increasing the credit limit, you are going to see a ripple effect on the global markets. US companies would raise money in a lot more time, more difficulty at higher cost, and the US government would be paying much more to raise those funds as well. And inevitably, what that means is that more money will be taken out at the expense of the taxpayer. Well, has this happened before? Historically, how are such situations tackled? This is a very normal occurrence. Oftentimes, you have to go back to Congress and request that the credit limit is actually increased. And now what that means is that once the credit limit is increased, there is a question of, well, is this for the required or the approved spending bills? And in fact, when that is the case, it's a very normal, straightforward process. In these instances, we are going to see a lot of political capital being used. Number one, as I mentioned before, the Republicans are not happy with the increased spending plans of the Joe Biden administration. Secondly, the economic recovery that was expected from post-pandemic economic activity is not flowing through due to the Delta variant. And thirdly, the Joe Biden administration has in fact alienated a lot of Republicans as it tries to push through its spending bills. So we can't lose sight of what is the real issue here. The ability of the US government to raise capital. We borrow significantly from the world markets. The US is by far the biggest sovereign borrower on the planet. The other thing we do is that we actually have taxes. And quite honestly, the Joe Biden administration is working very hard to get up 1% to pay more taxes. Collectively, the top 1% only pay close to $160 billion in taxes. That is a fraction of what can be generated should stricter tax laws be enforced. And this was the same point highlighted by Natasha Sari, who is the Deputy Assistant Secretary at the Treasury, in saying we have to allow the IRS to have stronger implementation role, stronger enforcement role. And I foresee that we are going to hear a lot about this. Otherwise, we have to be making those tough choices between those programs that are high priority, those programs that are doing very well, but unfortunately, we don't have the money to spend on it. Or we raise taxes, but that just only impacts the poor taxpayers who are already compliant. So the big idea is really, is the US running out of money? The answer is yes, we are running out of money. However, the bigger issue here is, how are our political leaders going to work together to be able to avert a crisis in the global markets in terms of an increased interest rate? If you like this and you want to see more of these videos, please leave a comment below. Otherwise, I'd appreciate it if this was useful. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell icon. Thank you.